All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another Green Square Talks Battlebots prediction podcast. So, yeah, we are 6 episodes into this season, and I bring you another great fight card right here. So, yeah, another great episode surely coming. We got some pretty beefy fights right in this fight card, and several fights that I think could go either way. Some of them where I think maybe an upset could be brewing. It might look one-sided, but the other robot might have a serious shot at it, I think. So I think a lot's going to happen in this fight card, but I'm especially eyeing that main event right there. Rematch from rematch from last season, the final four fight that quite a few people thought to be a controversial decision. I'm going to hold off on my opinions of that because that's not really the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is mostly just to share my predictions and kind of for me to talk a little bit about the fight, how I picture some of these fights going. So, yeah, if you like what you see, like and subscribe as usual, and comment down below your predictions. I love hearing everyone's predictions, everybody who replies. It's awesome to hear everybody's opinions and what you think about what the outcomes of some of these fights are going to be right before we see the episode this Thursday. Because I think we got some excitement coming, and I really can't wait to see this thing. So, let's go ahead and get right into the discussion. We're going to start off with Jackpot and Rotator. This is a rematch from a couple seasons ago, Jackpot's debut season, and yeah, and one of Rotator's first seasons where it became horizontal spinner and wedgelets. The only time it really did that prior to before Battlebots was the season before that. But yeah, this is gonna be a tough fight for Jackpot without a doubt. Jackpot being one of my favorite robots. I'm curious how Jackpot's gonna prepare for Rotator this time. I suspect Rotator is probably gonna use the same configuration they used last time when they fought Jackpot, the horizontal spinner and wedgelets for this one, and then depending on what Jackpot comes with is what they lead with. I'm very interested in how Jackpot's going to prepare for this match. I haven't seen any fight images from this, so I have no idea what Jackpot's going with for this one. They could go with wedgelets. We could see a plow like what we saw them use for horizontals last season. Could see something right in the middle right there. The thing is that Rotator's just such a hard robot to prepare for, just because it's got a great solution for ground game, and then it's got a really nasty horizontal spinner right there. So, yeah, I'm going to go with my favorite robot, Jackpot, on this one. Both these robots are kind of coming off of a rough first fight, and I imagine both these robots are going to want a serious bounce back. I seriously think this fight could go either way. I think Jackpot probably has the edge when it comes to weapon power, and they could possibly, and if they go for reach with the vertical spinners, if they maybe go with forks, Jackpot might be able to maybe pluck the wedgelets or something like that on Rotator and maybe go for some hits with the vertical spinner. But it wouldn't be hard for Rotator to pull off some stuff because yeah, Rotator could very easily just outdrive Jackpot like what they did last season. Because I think Jackpot lost that fight last season. Well, not because of like the butt plow config, because like the butt plow config was very clever on Jackpot's end right there. I think Rotator just won the driving game right there. There, just knew like how to attack that configuration of Jackpot well with their two weapon options, and I imagine that's what Victor is gonna be going for here. But yeah, I think I'm gonna lean towards Jackpot on this one because I think Jackpot, I think can definitely deliver the bigger hits between these two robots. But I think Rotator is the better robot, like defensive wise, on this one. I think this fight could go either way. I think this will be a great fight regardless of who wins. But regardless, one of these robots is going to be 1-1. The other is going to be in a hole at 0-2. So this is kind of a must-win fight for both these robots if they want to make the bracket. So regardless, I think we're going to see a good fight here, and I think this is going to be a hard-fought one. All right, next up we got Death Roll and Switchback. Switchback's coming off of a win against Banshee for their first fight, and then Death Roll's coming off of a loss to Cobalt in this one. Glad to see Death Roll back once again. Then this first time we've seen Death Roll. Well, this season's the first time we've seen Death Roll since their 2019 top four run, and yeah, they start off with a loss to Cobalt, and now they got Switchback, who won their first fight. So the thing I do want to mention right off the back is while Switchback definitely has the better record at the moment, like definitely Switchback had quite a few gremlins to work with, even though they won that fight with Banshee. Because it didn't look like that arm was working properly for most of that fight with Banshee, and it looked like the drive was not quite 100% at that one. But Switchback definitely proved that weapon does have the power that it had like last season. Well, more power to it. The power that we were expecting to see out of Switchback is definitely there. So, but regardless, though, I'm gonna go Death Roll on this one because I think this is kind of a bad matchup for Switchback in a way. Switchback is probably not going to want to go weapon on weapon here with Death Roll, and they probably going to want to outmaneuver Death Roll somehow. But I think Death Roll is the faster and more maneuverable robot between the two of them, and I think the reach game could actually really help Death Roll in this case. But I do worry about Death Roll because, like they did mention right before the Cobalt fight started, that basically in that little segment right there, overall the design of Death Roll is about the same from what it was in 2019. Just there was like they did say there were some changes to Death Roll, but like to make it better. But the overall design of it is the same as what we saw in 2019, and that kind of worries me as for the meta wise. I think, but regardless though, I still think they got this one, and but like some of that stuff, like, but like if Switchback does perform better drive wise, I think Switchback could definitely pull this one off, though. Oh, absolutely. Because but I would say Death Roll wins this because I think they have the advantage. Definitely have the advantage weapon wise. I would probably as of right now, I think they're the safer pick. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. So after that wacko of a explanation there. Let's move on to Big Dill and Scorpios, where both teams have announced on social media that they're not trying to go for ground game on this one. They're trying to avoid the forks game. They're trying to make this one a driving match, is what it sounds like. And we found out that Big Dill is debuting the vertical spinner for this fight. So definitely looking forward to seeing like what kind of power that thing can deliver to its opponents right there. And Scorpios is a really good test for that vertical spinner because Scorpios is very well known for its defense and durability, as well as like the power in that weapon right there. Yeah, I know Zach Lyles mentioned quite a few times that like Emmanuel and him have fought several times in lighter competitions, and from what it sounds like Emmanuel has won most of those too. So this will be a huge matchup for like not just like the robots, but the drivers right there in general. Well, since those two have fought several times, like outside of Battlebots, basically. So yeah, there's a lot on I'm gonna go Scorpios with this one because there's a lot unknown about Big Dill at least coming into this match that we don't know of. Like we know pretty well like the durability and reliability of Big Dill, and that was something that I think hurt them a little bit in that fight with Hijinks there. But like we don't know what kind of power that vertical spinner can deliver right there, and that's what this matchup I feel is going to kind of determine right there, because like the vertical spinner could do quite a bit of damage to Scorpios, or it could just not do very much damage. Like it could be like a nibbler basically. It just doesn't do very much, and like this one's hard to predict just because like we don't know a lot about that. So regardless, though, I think this is going to be an excellent driving match between these two robots, and I hope we get a great fight out of this, because I definitely consider Big Deal to be a really competitive robot, like even if the record doesn't exactly state that. So, yeah, I think we got a good fight on our hands coming, and I'm gonna predict Scorpios for this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if Big Deal pulls it off, because maybe that vertical spinner does have a serious amount of power to it. We'll find out. All right, next up, Endgame and Ripperoni. So, Endgame is coming off of a pretty dominant victory over Blip in episode 2. Ripperoni is coming off of a loss to Gruff. I'm going to say I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that I could see upsets brewing. This is the upset I am predicting. I'm going Ripperoni for this fight. So basically, how I see this fight kind of going down. I see a couple options here because like we know Endgame's going for ground game here, and I believe Ripperoni is also going for ground game in this one. Like Endgame definitely wins the ground game if these two go head on. I feel, but that's not why I'm going Ripperoni on this one. So basically with Ripperoni, one of the design features in that robot is that, like, along with that big vertical spinner that we know of very well, it's got a separate disc on the side of that robot that's a flywheel spinning in the opposite direction. The idea of that is to cancel out the gyroscopic forces right there. Basically, the point I'm trying to make right there is that, like, without those gyroscopic forces, I would consider Ripperoni to be the more mobile robot than Endgame, as long as it's working. Because we were seeing a lot of gyroscopic forces in Ripperoni's fight with Gruff, because the flywheel wasn't spinning for most of it. Because I think what I heard is that they turned off the flywheel for battery purposes. And so that's why we saw just an absurd amount of gyroing happening within that robot in that first fight. So yeah, like I'm picking Ripperoni for this fight because like I think if that flywheel is working like for the full 3 minutes of the match right there, they could take advantage of Endgame's gyroscopic forces, and definitely Ripperoni has the driver to be able to like give Jack Barker a serious run for his money because yeah. Fred drove Valkyrie the past few seasons, and he's done a great job doing it. And sure enough, like he did a relatively solid job in the fight with Gruff there, even if they didn't come out on top with driving. So yeah, regardless, I'm excited for this match. I'm gonna predict Ripperoni for this fight. I'm really taking a chance at this one because I feel it's unlikely Ripperoni wins that fight with Endgame, but like it'd be one of those things where like it'd be a little bit funny to watch it happen, watch it occur, something like that. But yeah, you kind of get the idea. So, yeah, I think either Endgame's going to get a quick knockout on this one, or Ripperoni's going to manage to pull off the KO. But that's not going to be an easy task there. So, yeah, I'm really taking a risk with that one because I personally do feel like personally do feel more than half the time if these two robots fought like 10 times, more than half of them would go to Endgame. But regardless, I think this should be an excellent midway major fight. Fight number 5, Valkyrie and Banshee. And like this just really brings me Valkyrie and Sub-Zero vibes right there. Just cuz like it's Valkyrie on one side and then Banshee looks so similar to Sub-Zero and it's on the other side right there. I'm betting Valkyrie has been hyping up on social media a fork configuration. Basically where they have one fork on one side of the robot. The idea of trying to get underneath an opponent right there and then slice at the underside of that robot with the undercutter. I bet they're gonna. I'm feeling with how much they've been hyping it up lately. I think they're gonna use it for this fight with Banshee, and I think Banshee's a great test for that fork to see how well it would work in a situation like that. So yeah, Lucy had a pretty successful first fight in that fight with Mammoth, and I'm gonna predict Valkyrie goes 2-0 on this one. I'm gonna predict Valkyrie to win this fight with Banshee. So yeah, like definitely Banshee is another one like Switchback, even though those two fought recently, where I think they got some kinks to work out after that first fight. Cause like definitely the flipper didn't seem like it was at 100%. Like the drive looked pretty good. I would say for the most part, the armor and frame of that robot was pretty tanky for the most part, but they're definitely going to get a big test with this one because I would consider Valkyrie to be a bigger spinner than Switchback. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what Banshee is going with for this fight configuration wise. I predict they probably have something for horizontal spinners because I know David Smalls probably came pretty well prepared for most types of robots. So, uh, yeah. I want to predict Valkyrie for this fight. I think we're going to see quite a lot of sparks and a lot of pieces flying on this one. But I'd love to see Banshee pull this one off, obviously, because yeah, always love a good flipper and would love to and like if like one of my favorite robots doesn't win the whole thing, what I also really want to see is a non-spinner win the whole thing. Whether it's like Banshee, Blip, Hydra, Beta, Quantum, just those types of robots. Like a non-spinner winning the giant nut would be awesome to see, and absolutely, you kind of get the idea. So let's move on to Hijinks and Captain Shredderator. So this one is a little bit hard to pick in my opinion, because like on one hand, Captain Shredderator has the design advantage in this one. Captain Shredderator is one of those full body spinners that's just really well designed to take on horizontal spinners, and they got a pretty big horizontal spinner right here in Hijinks. But then on the other hand, Captain Shredder is also one of the most inconsistent robots. Because like on some fights we see it perform so well and absolutely kick the crap out of their opponents. And then there are other times where we see them kind of beat themselves somehow. Just like have some sort of reliability problem, have something die in that robot that causes it to either lose the weapon or just lose drive entirely right there. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of weapon on weapon action in this fight, but this is another fight where I don't think it's going to go the full 3 minutes here. There are so many. I'd say the fights that on here that I think could possibly go to the judges include Big Dill and Scorpios, and then the main event probably too. Maybe Jackpot and Rotator, but this fight I think is going to end in a knockout though. Oh, I'm gonna go hijinks on this one, and because like Hijinks at least is the more consistent robot between the two for the most part, and like other than the weapon dying in that fight with Captain Shredderator, Hijinks looked great in that fight with Big Dill right there. Because like the weapon worked pretty well, it did quite a lot of damage in that fight with the spinner, and when it got flipped over, it drove a lot better in that fight with Big Dill than it did last season when they would get flipped over. So like yeah, I have a lot of hype for Hijinks this season, and I thought they performed really well in that first fight, and like, yeah, I, Captain Shredder's inconsistency is why I'm predicting Hijinks on this one. Okay, so Tantrum and Hydra for the main event, and this one, huge rematch and a big fight for like both robots in different ways. Because like on one hand, Tantrum is off to a 0-1 start after that loss to Minotaur, and they're going to be coming out swinging in this one just to avoid falling into a deeper hole. And on the other hand, we got Hydra, where Jake felt he won that fight with Tantrum last season, as did a lot of the community did. I'm not going to share my opinions on that because that's not the point of this video, and I look to avoid all conversation about that just because I moved on from that. Like, all I'd say is just like I really enjoyed that first matchup, and I hope we get a really enjoyable main event here. So, regardless, though, I think both these robots are going to really come out swinging, and we're going to see a very aggressive showdown from both these robots. So, yeah. So basically, I'm gonna predict Hydra for this fight. The first thing being that I think I have a feeling Tantrum definitely seemed like it had some kinks to figure out after that first fight with Minotaur. And I hope they fixed a lot of that stuff just cuz like I want to see the defending champ do really well in the regular season. It'd be really sad to see like 2 seasons ago they made the top 4. This last season they won the giant nut. And then this season possibly not make bracket at all. That'd be kind of unfortunate. But so I hope they figured out like lots of those issues that kind of held them back in that fight with Minotaur right there. Then on the other hand, Hydra looked great in that fight with Rotator. Like holy crap, like I didn't think Hydra versus Rotator was going to be as one-sided as that fight was. Like I surely thought Rotator was going to have some pretty powerful moments there, but Jake Ewer just gave him absolutely nothing to work with in that one. So, like that rampage that we saw from Rotator, I imagine Jake Ewer is going to bring that kind of aggression to Tantrum right there. He's going to probably try to knock Tantrum off balance, and then just keep flipping him time and time again until Tantrum's either out of the arena, stuck, or died or lost drive from too many flips or something like that. Regardless, though, I think this fight's gonna go. I'm gonna predict Hydra by a judge's decision here. I think Tantrum definitely has the ability to take the flips, and like I think Tantrum definitely has the ability to do some damage there. But I have a feeling one of these robots is gonna get underneath the other, start landing hits or flips on the other, and just not gonna let up at least. But yeah, you kind of get the idea. So I'm predicting Hydra for this one, but I would not at all be surprised if Tantrum won this rematch. So I think this will be a outstanding main event. I hope we get a just as back and forth fight as what we got the first time these two robots fought. Because that's one of the things I loved most about that fight. Hey, the first time, because like it was so back and forth. We got to see some great action from both robots, and I wouldn't have been surprised which direction it went as for that judge's decision. So, yeah, anyway, I'm going to Hydra on that one, and let's review my predictions. Okay, so here are my predictions. My predictions, I'm going Jackpot, Death Roll, Scorpios, Ripperoni, Valkyrie, Hijinks, and Hydra. Several of these fights really could go either way, and some of these fights like I might be predicting one out I might be predicting an outcome that could be like the expected outcome if you kind of get the idea. But I seriously think upsets are brewing in this one. I think we're gonna see some of like the lower tier robots take out some of the higher tier robots in this episode. Oh, because like just looking at lots of these matchups, that's kind of what I'm picturing in my mind here. Regardless, though, that's going to do it for this prediction podcast. So thanks for watching this video. Be sure to comment down below what your predictions are for this episode. I always love hearing what you all have, and definitely it's a fun thing to see. It's one of the fun parts about this sport. So, yeah, once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.